Call the Devils Lake City Commission special meeting, City Board of Equalization to order. And first item on the agenda will be the review of the annual report. And I guess, Rob, I'll let you.
All right, and I'll kind of make this brief and kind of lean on you to ask questions as we go through, if you have anything. The first thing that I'm going to kind of start with is on page 3. It references the homestead credit, and it's something I just want to bring attention to because I think it's something that's underutilized. There will be some changes coming through the legislative session that will expand the credit to allow more people to be eligible for it. What exactly that's going to look like yet is still for debate because that bill is still in conference committee. But it's something that I think we're going to try and work to get more information out about to try and get more of the residents that are eligible for it to be utilizing it. Then the next thing that I'm going to skip on down to the permits and sales data. So our building permits issued in 2022 were down from 2021. We issued 91 building permits in 2022. That's also the lowest issued number of permits in 6 years. However, the estimated project value of those permits was in excess of $16 million, which is the highest it's been in 6 years. That's largely due to the airport project being permitted last year at just over $8 million.
I suppose lumber prices had a pretty big impact on that.
Yeah, and we have a couple larger projects that we don't normally see. And in talking with Dustin too, we're expecting, lumber prices have started to drop. And so with spring coming, we're expecting a probably busier than normal year for some of those smaller building permit projects. On the sales data, residential sales were up. We had 78 residential sales that we utilized for our sales ratio. That's up from, I believe we had 67 the year before, 68 the year before. And then our commercial sales were pretty consistent at 9. So that we've stayed at 8-9 range seems to be about where we're sitting on the sales. The average sale price of a residential property was $168,863. That'll be something that I'll continue to track, and we'll start developing a history on that so that we can see what the sale prices are doing within the city. The next section is going to be the property tax calculation. Just have some basic information on how the property taxes are calculated, how the formulas work. One of the things I added to the report this year was just a breakdown of how it works on one of our actual tax statements, which I think would be beneficial just for the casual person to be able to see and identify where the numbers are coming from on their tax statement and how the mill factors into that, what the assessment ratio is, the assessed value, how all that integrates into the tax process.
One of the things maybe just to note as far as what the Board of Equalization does is it doesn't set what property taxes are, it sets what the valuation of the city is, which then informs, when we do our budget as far as what mills are worth and whatnot. So that's what the Board of Equalization is, setting the value of the city.
So then we'll get into the property valuations. The tables in this section display the values for the past 10 years and the projected values for 2023. Take note of the one thing that I will point out is in the true and full table, the 2022 values for residential. I really tried not to adjust any numbers, historical numbers, just because I wasn't the one that came up with those. However, that was one that I did find that was an error, and so I did correct it. It was calculated out as a commercial property instead of residential property. So the numbers that were actually reported last year for the residential was $12,213,357. So that's what had been reported, and that's the numbers that was used. That changed the total prior to utilities to $20,924,929, and the total post utilities to to 21,475,843. So that, and I'll let Spencer, if he would like to talk a little bit as far as, what kind of impacts that may or may not have had.
It just impacts slightly some of our revenue projections, given that we thought that each mill was worth slightly more than it was. It's not something that can't be overcome. And like I said, it's just a slight revenue projection error given our total budget. And we'll, I don't suspect it should impact us too much, but it is important that we get that right moving forward.
So then there's additional tables and graphs in there that show comparisons to other municipalities across the state and where we line up in conjunction with those. The sales ratio analysis is used to determine the valuations of properties compared to market value based on sales. The state allows for a tolerance of 90 to 100% for your sales ratio. Our sales ratio for residential properties was 87.22%, which was consistent with what other municipalities across the state were seeing in that 86 to 87% range. So to get us into the tolerance level, I applied a 6% increase to the residential dwelling values, which resulted in approximately a 4.84% increase in total residential values, which then brought us into compliance at 92.06%. Our commercial sales ratio, on this commercial, anytime you do a sales ratio, you have to have a minimum of 30 sales to utilize. Since we only had 9, we had to go back for prior years, and you can go back to 3 prior years. So we went all the way back to 2019, which were allowed, which got us up over that 30 threshold. And when we were at our sales ratio analysis for the commercials, we were at 92.04. So we were within tolerance, so we didn't make any changes to the commercial property values. Now, there could be an argument made that we probably could still have adjusted upwards or even done more so on the residential side to get a little bit more into that zone. However, with the current economic state and stuff, I'm expecting sales to slow and the values to slow down a little bit. And then on the commercial side, we're going to be reevaluating our commercial properties this year. It's going to be our priority to start getting those done. And so I think we're going to see changes coming as we go through that process as well. So I kind of just skimmed over and hit on a couple of the main points. I'm open to any questions or requests that you may have.
I think that's my first year on here. What does that adjustment for the residential do? Does it affect what people pay for their taxes, or how does this?
So when we applied the 6% to the dwellings across the board, that's an equal amount as far as the share that's being applied to the residential values. So that's it's not going to increase or decrease, or at least not much if it does, their portion of the tax valuation or the tax payment. And that'll come down to when you actually set the budget. That'll determine how much their share of the taxes will go up and down. But their portion compared to everybody else is not going to adjust because of that.
Because I look at my place and what they say my place is worth, ain't never going to make it to what price they say my place is worth. So adding to that, I was just wondering what that would be.
Right. And I have it in there. It's a goal to get on a 5-year cycle where we got the city broken down and to try and get out and hit every place at least once every 5 years so that we can make sure that we're staying on top of our valuations. So that'll be one of the things, and then trying to open up and get more public input and data available to the public. So maybe they can see what we have for information on their property and they can let us know what's wrong. And that'll be easier to correct some of those things.
And you'd have to go inside to check on their houses too when you do that.
That's the preferred. We want to be able to get in. Otherwise, we're guessing at a lot of things, and we don't want to do that.
So it's up to them.
But it's up to the property owner. Yeah.
Do they want a true or
Yeah.
estimation? Because I've said I've lived at that house for 17 years and never had anybody come ask to see the inside of my house.
A lot of people aren't happy to do that.
That's a long time.
Well, I've gotten letters.
See, I've not got.
They just went to
anything.
shredder. It's not coming into my house.
So I was just
Not till I'm
wondering,
done with it,
but thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
it's the value of the property now.
Okay. Any other questions?
Okay, we can move on to property appeals if you'd like.
Okay, and we have one.
Yep. We do have one.
Pardon?
Yep.
Delta Property Tax Advisor, is that who's appealing for the
That's-
Holiday gas station?
Yeah, that's the agency that's representing the Holiday gas
All
station
right.
in their appeal.
Do you have anything you want to say about it, or?
I just kind of outlined it and I can go through my memo real quick on it. The value that we have set on the property in question is $354,100 for the improvement. The land value is at $67,400 for a total of $421,500. When you're looking at these properties, they break it down and look at your per square foot. So that comes out to $106 per square foot. Went on, we reviewed the information, went on site, took a look at things, got the information into our system. And once I've got everything updated, the value that I came up with for the improvement was $354,600. So it was an increase of about $500, not enough for me to justify a change one way or the other to the valuation. And so I also, in that consideration, I did break down, and it's in the memo as well, looking at the other convenience gas stores that we have in the city of Devils Lake, and breaking those down to a value per square foot as well. And I don't have any justification to move the value that we have on the property. In my memo too is the statement that I did get from their representative. And I just kind of, for the record, I just want to make sure that we've got her name and their information on. It's Sally Paul from Delta Property Tax Advisors for the property located at 137 Highway 2 West, the Holiday gas station. And so essentially they're saying that since it's over 40 years old, that the depreciation on the structure should be at 80%. In our system, it's at 40%, but that's taken into consideration the condition of the structure, the grade that we have in there, and some of there's been remodels and stuff that have been done to the.
And they also indicate in there that those tanks haven't been touched in 77, which isn't true because there was a mandate to upgrade all underground fuel tanks in the 2000s. So I know that they've upgraded those tanks.
And I'll be seeking that information to get that updated in our record.
And I mean, if they're complaining on $500.
Well, they're looking, because they sent us a
Different
Marshall
values.
Swift.
We got a different-
Yeah, they sent us the Marshall Swift cost estimate, which is not an appraisal. And so they're asking for it to be reduced to $246,591 total.
Because he didn't adjust it at 500.
Yeah, I
You're
didn't,
adjusting it 500.
I didn't make any changes with the 500.
Oh.
I just left it as is, the way we had it.
Well, they want
I'm looking at what
62
the-
square feet.
Mhm.
I'm looking at what the prices, these other guys,
Mhm.
what their total valuation was, it's really not
Mhm.
that far off considering the size of, Bjornson's I can understand because it's bigger, it's newer lot.
Location's making a difference.
So essentially, the way the process works is they've filed their appeal. This commission can make a determination on whether or not to have a valuation change or approve the valuation as is. Then the next step for them would be to appeal to the county Board of Equalization and then ultimately to the state Board of
I'll make
Equalization.
a motion to keep the valuation the way you have it, Rob.
To deny the appeal.
Yes.
Jason?
Deny the
second.
appeal.
My second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hamry to deny the appeal and to maintain the valuation as presented. And we have a second by Commissioner Pierce. Any further discussion? All in favor, let's do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Pierce.
Aye.
Commissioner Hammer.
Aye.
Commissioner Ash. Aye. President Moss.
Aye. Motion carries.
That's the only appeal that I received. So, and I wasn't expecting anyone else to show up today for any appeals.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the 2023 evaluations.
So then that would just be moving to approve the valuations as we have set.
Is there a
I'll make a motion to approve this.
motion by Commissioner Hatch? Is there a second?
No, I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Hamry. Any further discussion? None being, roll call, please.
Commissioner Pierce.
Aye.
Commissioner Hamry.
Aye.
Commissioner Hatch.
Aye.
President Long.
Aye. Motion carried.
The homestead credit applications is next. I'm gonna be doing a little bit more research into this because I don't believe that you have to approve these, but it's something that's been done by this commission historically. I believe that the county is the only one that has to approve these, but we'll go through the process just because that's what we've done in the past.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Well, I guess we have to have a motion.
You were saying you were looking at how it's not utilized much. How do you plan on, or what is the plan thought of on how to get more information out to the people that so they know this is available?
You know, while I think you have your media, your and stuff, the target audience we're trying to get,
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be more important to get to like Kiwanis, get to Rotary, get to some of those meetings and really get the word of mouth going. Because that's the only way I think we're gonna hit the target population.
You see, I was going to ask the same question with the disabled veteran, because until I walked in here my first day of being a commissioner, I never knew that was even on the wall there. I had never heard of it before. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways taking that out to camp to a lot of, and then getting it across the state itself,
Right.
how many people at Bismarck that drill out there that have, got hurt during combat.
And one of the things I think that's a misunderstanding for people is when you receive that tax credit for those two programs, the city still gets that money. It's just they're getting it from the state now instead of from the taxpayer. So it's not that that money is being lost as a revenue source for the city. It's still there. And so it's there to help people stay in their homes. And that's what we want to do is help people stay in their homes.
We
as
could
long
hit
as we
a
can.
media barrage. I think that'd be the best thing.
Okay.
See if we can get, maybe
Wonder
get the
with
states to put some funding into the fact because the state's not telling
Right.
people.
Wonder with your homestead credit tax too, if maybe you should do like a postcard or something like that. Because a lot of them, they don't pay online. They're probably still paying by.
Do we have it in the calendar, the city calendar? I think I saw it in there once, or maybe mistaken.
So, and when it comes to homestead, anyone that we get an app from, whether they've qualified for it or not, goes on a list and we mail out applications to them every year. So we're staying in touch with them once we get in touch. Once we get their information, we're gonna stay in touch with them.
See,
But
one
it's-
thing I found this week was my mother-in-law got a letter in the mail from the IRS. And the senior citizens are so terrified of the fraud, and the way that was typed up, it was hard for her to comprehend and understand what was going on. So if the stuff and mailers are sent out, they have to be fully explained.
Yeah.
Call the city offices for this, so they're not guessing on, because everything was such a short clip of words. They really were like, I don't understand what any of this means. So the more plain, clear, and simple we could make it, would be better for the folks that need this.
And on the homestead side, we encourage them to come in and we'll help them fill out the application.
So I see how it affects my mother-in-law. She gets it, and it's something I think a lot of the folks should really know about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we just want to approve this here? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
approve
Ron?
the list that's there. I've received a few others and we will continue, even though there's a February 1st deadline, the county agrees to receive them through the year and they can even apply later and file for abatements. So they have those options.
I make a motion to approve the list and any upcoming applications that may come in.
For the
for
homestead
the
credit.
homestead credit.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Pierce. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hatch. Any further discussion? None being, all approve, say aye.
Aye.
Say, opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Sorry about that. Next one is disabled veterans.
So no changes with this one. The one difference between disabled veterans and the homestead is the homestead is an annual application. The disabled veterans is not. Once they apply and they receive it, then they have it. The only time that they would have to reapply is if they have a change in standing or an increase in their disability.
And they apply right here at City Hall too.
Correct.
So since there's no change, there's no vote needed on it.
Right.
I'll make the motion.
Well, no, there's no
It's not
vote that's
required.
needed,
Oh,
because it
okay.
doesn't,
Yeah, we-
it's a, once you have it, you have it.
It's,
Okay.
it's just informational only.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, special circumstances exemption.
So this is going to be the list of your churches, the hospital, nursing homes, and charitable organizations that have properties within the state, within the city. This does require an annual application. All entities that qualified last year applied and are eligible again this year.
Do we get reimbursed from the state for this too, or is that a lost income there?
I'm not sure. I'll have to look.
Just curious if it's something like, you know, because if you tally it up,
I'm going to say that it's a loss of revenue because of the fact that it's an exemption and not a credit. So that would tell me that it's going to be a loss of revenue.
just curious is all I,
'Cause with the churches, they don't.
right. No, I get it. It's just
Oh,
that
I hear you.
I just thought maybe that we were supplemented to the other, you know,
No.
from somewhere else.
My question is, just to be clear on this,
Must be.
if you're a member of any of these organizations, is it a conflict of interest to vote on this?
If you're a member of any,
I think, given the number and like if you're a member of a church, right?
we're all a member.
I'm thinking,
I'm
we
just-
would not have enough people to vote if we,
Okay, I'm
Okay,
just
to
asking,
the-
because I'm a
to the
member,
extent
because
of-
I'm a officer in the VFW.
Is-
I don't want to, you know what I mean? I wanted to make sure.
I think, one of the things you just note the conflict and so long as, the commission is aware of it. I
I think every one of us has got a conflict with one or the other.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
asking, because I didn't want to come back to bite anybody, so.
So that one we will need a motion and approval for.
I'll make the motion.
Have a motion by Commissioner Hamry,
A second.
second by Commissioner Pierce. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Blind exemption is also an exemption that's available that they do have to apply for every year. So that'll be the same one as far as needing a motion and approval.
I said every year, like they're gonna regain their sight the next year.
Do we- how many do we have?
Just one.
Just the one? Okay,
I can't believe there's just one.
I'll make a motion to approve the one blind exemption.
motion by Commissioner Pierce to
Second.
approve, seconded by Commissioner Emery. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Is that a state or federal that comes down from?
It's, that again, is an exemption. So I don't believe there's any reimbursement that.
No,
comes
no,
in.
I'm asking that. I'm like, who makes the,
It's a state ordinance.
Okay.
State program, yeah.
I'm gonna make note of that because I want to get to legislature. That shouldn't, you're not gonna get better. So why make somebody apply? You know, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
That's just.
Is there anything else to come before the commission? That should conclude unless you have anything else, Rob.
Oh, that's it.
motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn. Motion by Commissioner Pierce, second.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Hamry. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Great job.
Yeah, nice report.
Thank you.
I'm gonna
Nice report.
So how long till we got some tips that are